Sucks to say, prices are not going to be coming down for gear items that you want or need just because a possibility of 70% of the tariffs put on by the administration seemingly have been struck down by the Supreme Court. I talked about this a lot last summer. Prices for stuff that you may need when it comes to the world of survival gear, EDC, prep, any of that type of stuff could have been affected, especially stuff that you may be getting from different parts of the world, especially like the Baltic areas, Bulgaria. If you get like knife sharpeners from the Czech Republic, if you're getting stuff obviously from China, if you're getting even stuff like I'm enjoying right now, like cigars, like one of my favorite boxes of cigars, the Girl with No Name. I went to buy myself a box of these, which I do pretty often, and the price had gone up a little bit, and it was all in inflation. I've even noticed it on items that are assembled in America, but they're still sourced. A lot of their sourcing happens overseas. This is the Leatherman Surge, which is, when I got this, I got it for $140, and that was on base, and then like kind of in the real world, it was like $149 plus tax. It just quietly creeped up to $159. And the thing about the Leatherman Surge is that the plier heads are not made in America. That's why it didn't have the USA stamp like you would see on something like the Leatherman Free P4, which can have the Made in America stamp because they make the entire thing in America versus the Surge. When the tariffs were implemented, whoever imports the item of record pays the tariff. So, there was some stuff that I was getting made for my business. And of course, when it hit the shores, I either had to pay the tariff, pay to warehouse the item if I couldn't afford the tariff, or reject the item, and then I have to pay for shipping to go back to where I ordered it from. Like, it's a whole headache and a half to have to take care of this stuff. And then you have to make a decision, like, do you pass the cost of that item on to the customer? Do you negotiate with the manufacturer overseas and say, hey, I need to share this cost with you? Do you just eat the cost? What do you do? And I think that a couple of things are going to happen when it comes to these companies. Number one, they're going to demand refunds if they're allowed to get them. So we had recently, the Supreme Court came down 6-3 saying that the provision, the 1970 something provision that the president chose to declare an emergency and then impose tariffs on countries seemingly for however long he wanted and for whatever amount he wanted, was not allowed. And it seems to be that companies are able to, even individuals, if you imported a high-end watch and you had to pay a tariff when you got it, you might be able to request a refund. I don't think that's going to be a clean process. I think that those refunds will come by the way of like taxes, right? So you may get credit on your taxes or offset your taxes, like a 100% offset of your taxes or something like that. I think that's the only way that could actually be done in such a way where we're not like literally just turning out checks to folks, because I can't see any other way how that gets done very, very cleanly. That's number one. Number two, if you are a company, let's just say you're a company and you raised your prices because of tariffs, 10%, 15% from wherever you get your items from. You import glasses for your hot sauce that you make. You import different exotic woods for things that you woodwork in your garage. You import whatever, toys that you're going to sell in your toy store or whatever that are made overseas. You raised your prices. Consumers have been eating those prices. Now it's been said that some of those tariffs are going to be knocked down. Do you lower your prices? There's no way that companies lower their prices just because these tariffs supposedly were deemed to be not done properly. A couple of reasons. They're enjoying the margins. I mean, if you now no longer have to pay this tariff, you raised your prices 15%. You're a good businessman. If you don't drop those prices and keep people continue to buy your cases, buy your cigars, buy your parts, buy whatever, then you're just doing good business. Number two, you have a precedent to not drop your prices. The COVID price hike, right? So prices went up during COVID when items were harder to get. Some companies never brought their prices down after COVID. and people continue to be consumers. Now, people have less disposable income to buy your shit, so maybe you should drop it. And then the third reason why you may not drop the price is because literally hours after the Supreme Court decision, the president came out and said that basically he was going to be imposing a 10% world global tariff on the 30% remaining tariff that was in place, and he was going to find different ways to implement the other 70%. In other words, if you're a business, you have no clue what's going to happen tomorrow. You have no clue on what you're going to be paying for. So if you have been thinking about importing, using, or getting items for your prep, you should be doing it now. It's the time is now to do that type of stuff. A lot of these companies keep a lot of stock here in the United States so that you don't have to feel the immediate pain of price hikes. But how long can they sustain it? I'm not sure. If you've been thinking about getting a power station from places like EcoFlow or from Dapson, they do keep U.S. warehouses, and they're trying their best to wrangle prices and keep them where they're at. But at a certain point, as they continue to manufacture that stuff mostly in China, the prices of those power stations are going to have to go up. If you get components of your prep that comes from overseas as well, from different areas like clothing items, Taiwan, from Vietnam, from China, and you are like, how do I want to fortify and get a Chinese made pair of something, socks to go with my muck boots, or undergarments or warming layers or different things or whatever, maybe you decide to do that stuff now, because even if they have a U.S. stock, even if they can keep the stuff cheap, eventually prices may continue to go up because it's just completely unstable. You know, I don't like necessarily making just recommendations to buy everyday carry items if you don't need them, but this would be a time to make those type of considerations, because if you've been looking at a watch, if you've been looking at a flashlight, if you've been looking at a knife, a bag, or whatever, there are very few companies that are able to wrangle their prices and keep them where they're at, because a lot of them are making stuff overseas. Some of the most high quality bags that we have here in the States, a lot of those are made in Vietnam. Places like Brown Buffalo and Eberly Stock and Vertex and Mystery Ranch, and a lot of those bags are heavily sewn in Vietnam. They're very, very well made because seamstress from here go over there and teach how to do it. Labor's cheaper. We get bags, Go Ruck. A lot of bags are made over there. Are we going to be able to wrangle and keep prices where they're at? A lot of those countries made concessions so that they can keep tariffs low, Vietnam being one of them. But how long can we keep that up? How long do you wait to pull the trigger on something you've been thinking about? It's a hard decision to make. And so that's something else to think about, even if it's thinking about harder cases, Pelicans of the world, Royal cases, Condition One, no name brands that you never heard of. If you're thinking about long-term storage of stuff, especially like clothing items that are out of season, right now I don't need my shorts and I don't need my sun shirts and all the other type of stuff because it is colder outside. That stuff is put away in storage, vice versa. Maybe you're considering it. This is a time when you really have to make those big decisions. I don't think prices are coming down, bro. I don't think they're coming down. We got too many examples, especially during the COVID time, when companies just have no reason to drop the prices. Let's talk about things you should be doing right now in other world events, because reportedly, Iranian officials took to Steve Witkoff, one of the lead negotiators when it comes to what's going on between Iran, the United States, and possibly Israel. Is they promised to not do any more progression in their nuclear program for 3 years. They promised to not use ballistic missiles against Israel. They took that proposal to Steve Witkoff. He shit on it and said, no, that's not good enough. It does lead me to believe that as the Olympics draw near closing, the United States men's hockey team just made it past the semifinals, and we're moving ahead. And the Olympics are almost wrapping up. So we got that going on. I think that as that comes to a close, as we put more assets in the region, I already gave you my 3-pronged plan of why I think an attack can be coming soon. I'll link that video up down below. I think that it is time for you to make moves when it comes to your personal storage in life, that you just want to make sure you have stuff good to go for a couple of reasons. Look at your vehicles, fill up your gas tanks. Takes a long time for oil prices that are affected in the Gulf or in Venezuela or in Alaska or in Canada or wherever we get our gas, our oil from to affect your tanks, your gas tanks. But I would just say you should still consider filling your stuff up just to be ready and just to have yourself topped off and be good to go. And keep that a part of your normal cadence. If you get to a half a tank, bump yourself up to a full tank. I think that's something you should highly consider. Anything that can disturb that part of the world, whether it is the Strait of Gibraltar, which is near Spain, which is the Strait of Hormuz, which is coming out of the Gulf, takes near the Indian Ocean, whether it is the Suez, anything, any type of straits or canals that could be affected because of what could possibly happen since the largest military buildup since 2003. Think about, do you need to start prepping those items now? I'm taking a look and thinking about, we have stuff topped off. I'm taking a look at our survival kits. I've already mentioned how I'm doing a completely overhaul of our cyber awareness systems and just making sure that we're good to go on that, because I think that this can come to a head much sooner than later. And especially with the release of the Epstein files, which we'll talk about here in a second, a lot of stuff is just happening all the time, which feels like distractions. You know, we get a large release of the Epstein files. And side note, one thing to keep in mind is everything in the Epstein files is an investigative gathering of information. So everything in there is untested, but it's a lot of stuff to just completely not believe wholeheartedly. And that's why you see some of our lead politicians kind of like panicking and always doing crazy stuff. And we seeing like former royal in Great Britain getting arrested. We're seeing people that are being heavily let go of some of their jobs in the corporate world. And a lot of people, a lot of feathers aren't being ruffled within high levels of leadership here in the United States. And it just feels like things keep happening to distract us from worrying about women or young girls who were assaulted by grown ass men. Whether it is, we're going to talk about, yes, aliens are real, or, you know, the Venezuela thing, or now what's going on with Iran in the Middle East. I think it's more likely than not that we pull the trigger and do this, because why not? You know, I'm kind of confused why we're doing this now. I am a little confused about why is it happening now? And I only say that because the nuclear program from Iran has been progressing since we ripped up the nuclear when President Trump took office the first time. They've been steadily just moving along, making shit happen. During his first term, we did nothing when it came to making attacks on them. This second term, we're making a lot more attacks on them, starting with Operation Midnight Hammer last summer, and now more stuff kind of ruffle up. And it all seems to be in conjunction with the Epstein stuff. And other than that, I can't figure out why we're doing this now. So it could have to do with the Epstein files and saving face. Like, you know how it is when you beat on your chest and you tell folks that you're big dog, and now people got to test your gangster. I feel like that the United States thinks that Iran is testing our gangster and we got to do something about it. Because I can't figure out why now we're doing it. Like, were they on the brink of being able to take their nuclear program coupled with their ballistic missile program and launch a nuke? Like, what makes this sense that we need to have 2 aircraft carriers in the region? We need to have some of our most powerful Century type of aircraft like Pegasus. We have our tankers in there like we have KC-130, C-5, C-17s. We're fortifying our air bases. We are having one of the largest naval buildups in history, in the largest military buildup in the region since 2003. At least 2 submarines with Tomahawks. Like, there's a lot going on for shit that seems to have been going down for like the last decade. Sell it to us. Like, sell it to us Americans. And because we're not being sold on it quite yet, your gear and things that you think about, you might want to consider do I pull the trigger on the stuff now? Not just because of the stuff coming out of the region, but the reason that we so freely are able to get stuff and buy stuff that comes from other countries is because people can take to the sea and, for the most part, not worry about pirates, not worried about not being able to trade with another country. One of the biggest things that FDR, even before World War II, like the biggest influence that we had, especially coming out of World War II, is that we need free trade and we need people to be able to put a vessel in the water and sail around the world without being attacked. And even if you're not concerned about like, well, X, I don't get anything from the Middle East, dude, bro, I'm not tripping. You know what I'm saying? I got all my stuff, my ducks in a row and this, that, and the third. If the way that vessels are allowed to move around the world is interrupted in any type of way because of military or kinetic operations, that also can influence pricing. That also can influence stuff that you've been thinking about maybe holding off on. It's a hard thing for me to say, consider getting the stuff now as hard as this economy is. Like, me and Mrs. X are thinking about planning a major trip to the northern part of the country for our entire family, which I've estimated is going to cost us at least $8,000 to do. This isn't like a vacation at Disney. This is to go see family because we love them. And I'm like, dude, shit is fucking expensive. Maybe we should just rent a van and take a couple of pit stops and get some hotels, because like it's crazy pricey. The survival kits that I'm thinking about putting together, or things that I want to completely stock up more on, or keep pieces of kit that I want to get for our bug out location, or things that I want to build for those locations, or even supplies I want to get from my mother-in-law or grandmother-in-law. All that type of stuff is heavily influenced right now because I'm worried about prices going up, because prices are not going to come down. The getting rid of tariffs, I think, is not a real thing. And at the end of the day, the tariffs will continue, I think, to be passed down to us, and we're going to have to pay this shit. Especially if the administration feels like they've been embarrassed. Like they're going to have to feel like they're going to have to do what they got to do to pull their penis out and continue to show that they can do what they want. And I don't actually care what they do politically. I care about what affects my pockets, number one. And I care about America first type stuff, number two. So I'm still not sold on why we have so much taxpayer dollars going into the Venezuela area, or now the Mediterranean area. And I was able to be sold a little bit more on the Ukraine thing, but seemingly we've decreased that, and Europe has stepped up their supporting of Ukraine. And now we're using our money in the Middle East area. And it feels like it's just simply to support Israel. And like, I can't figure out what other reason we're there. And I'm all about like, bruh, like, let's just like focus on us. Of course, keep our assets there, but it's a lot to think about. So the videos I did last summer, I think they still hold firm, bro. I think they still hold firm. Tariffs are going to affect pricing for stuff that we really think about. It really shocked me on a live stream the other day as I was talking through some stuff. On that live stream, I discovered the price hike for Leatherman multi-tools. All of them. I'm talking about, normally on base, I can get a Leatherman mutt for $199. It crept up to $229. Price of the Arc went up. The price of the Wave went up. Normally it's $119. I think it bumped up to like $130, something like that. Don't quote me on that. And slowly we're going to notice those increases on other items. I mean, the cameras I'm using right now, price increases like crazy. This camera that you can't quite see originally would have been able to snag for $1,000. It crept up slowly to $1,300. This camera is showing my right hand right here jiggling. I think I bought this thing 2 years ago for like $1,700. Now they're selling for $2,000. Like, tariffs are here to stay, in my opinion. Or even if they go, price increases are here to stay. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I should continue to wait. And if you're building out a 20 kilowatt power station plan for your house, maybe you should continue to wait. Maybe everything's going to be fine. If you're building out a Pelican type storage solution with materials that are not made in America, maybe everything's going to be A-OK. Maybe everything's going to be fine. And X, you're tripping, bro. Comment down below. What do you think when it comes to the pricing for stuff that we use and that we need in this community when it comes to EDC stuff, prep stuff, or even your tools? Is it time for you to pull the trigger on stuff that you've been waiting for? For me and my family, some stuff, it is. First time stopping by, hit the subscribe button. I would love to have you part of the battalion. If this is not your first time stopping by, well, thank you once again for watching me run my grape. For everyone else, we'll speak soon.